For centuries, the indigenous community of Mohana fishermen have lived on the wooden houseboats, forming cluster of floating villages dotted along the river and its various lakes and tributaries. Their largest concentration was on Manchar Lake near Sehwan, where a variety of houseboat designs once prevailed in large numbers. These have now become extinct, with the exception of Galiyo houseboat, for which the last surviving remnants can still be found at Manchar Lake. The Galiyo is a flat-bottom houseboat, varying in length between 35 to 38 and width of 10 feet, serving as a compact and minimalist boat of the boat-dwelling Mohana families. Due to the steep decline of houseboat-dwelling culture, it has been over 50 years that the last Galiyo was built. Under the CPF project, funded by British Council, Heritage Cell, Department of Architecture and Planning, NED University, commissioned the construction of 2 new Galiyos for gifting to the community as their collective asset. This enabled capturing the process of its construction and understanding the technical aspect as shared by the boat-building craftsmen, having expertise in this indigenous craft. The first step is procurement of appropriate wood, in this case cedar, locally known as Diyar, having a log width of over 1 feet and length of 12 feet or more, is sought for building the 35 feet long Galiyo. In search of good quality wood with required size specifications, the master craftsman, along with the community representative, explore the local markets, and eventually procurement of wood in large quantities is done from Punjab. After selection, cutting into planks, and transportation to Manchar Lake, the wood planks are dried under the sun for almost 2 weeks. Once properly seasoned, the material is handed over to the team of karigars or craftsmen to work under the instruction of Ustad, the master craftsman. He initiates the process by drafting a plan with accurate measurements and ensuring that the material is used with the utmost economy. As an initial step, the 2 sides, kacho, are put together using tali wood plank at the top and they are wood planks for the remaining height. The planks are interlocked with V-joints, inserting bamboo pegs to strengthen the joints in between. The external surface of the sides is then smoothed using rando and prepared for carvings. The craftsmen create a basic grid and carve intricate patterns running horizontally on the upper part of the side called kadi. Alongside the 2 kacho, the base or taro is separately assembled using Diyar wood planks aligned on horizontal wooden sections made of babbar wood called pusu. After measurements and placements are decided, the craftsmen cut the planks with V-joints and fix them on pusu using nails hammered in linear rows. The joints between planks are further strengthened using bamboo pegging, inserted diagonally. Once the planks and pusu are firmly fixed, the arc shape of the base is drawn using thread and ink, cutting out the extra material and giving the base its boat shape. Once the base and sides are ready, it is time to join these 2 together. The base is flipped, bringing the pusu facing upwards, and the community volunteers gather to hold the sides one by one, aligned with the edge of the base for the karigar to start fixing them from the middle, gradually moving towards the front and back ends. This process is done by slowly adding pressure and bending the sides along the curve of the base, temporarily holding it from the inside using jandro made of thick branches. The 2 front ends of the side are tied with rope to hold them together and keep them bent. Splashing water on the sides also help in making them softer and easier to bend. Once the gap is reduced between the sides, the rope is further tightened. The next step is to add the gad, which runs along the sides horizontally as a ledge to walk or sit in. It is around 12 inches wide and forms the depth between the inner and outer faces of the sides. Vertical posts are nailed in from side to support the gad. A series of horizontal beams called addo are then fixed across the bow, agal, and stern, pachal, forming the structural support for takht platforms to be laid on. Now the L-shaped battens known as munnu are nailed in along the entire length of the houseboat, firmly joining the sides and base together. After cutting the extra lengths, they are hammered into the sides using closely spaced nails in vertical row. Sikanja, a metal tool, and wooden jandro are used to tighten and close the gaps, holding the sides from gad to base as the karigars firmly nail them. The back end of the Galiyo is closed by fixing the trapezoidal and arc-shaped dari, made with planks nailed on thinner vertical sections. Beautiful patterns are carved on external surface of dari, often a combination of borders with a unique central motif. A vertical carved post is also added in the middle. Once the dari is attached to the houseboat structure, the back ends of the two sides are nailed to it, completing the boat's shape. The two bigger beams, called addo, ornately carved with traditional patterns, are fixed at the edge of the bow and stern platforms, followed by installation of the planks forming the two takht is completed. Cutting into respective sizes, drilling holes, fixing with nails, and smoothing the surface. Smaller elements of detail are now added, including moro and sehri at bow deck, whereas leto and thapa on stern deck and base of munni. The karigars then work on adher, the inner sides. The wood panels are set and joined together. Surface is smooth. A grid is made dividing the entire length into 4 to 5 roughly square panels. Each panel is elaborately carved, with multiple borders framing each square and a central motif, contributing to the aesthetic beauty of the interior space. Carved vertical strips are added in between the squares to clearly demarcate the squares and firmly nail the adhere with the structural support at the back. The most ornate and eye-catching feature of Galiyo houseboat is the 3-arched element called kataro. This is added at the stern side after the addo, creating 3 arched openings for entering the storage area underneath the takht. The kataro is exquisitely carved, with intricate floral and geometric patterns covering the entire surface. On the bow side, the mehrabi, a single arch with simple carvings, frames the opening into the kitchen storage space underneath the bow takht. This marks the almost completion of Galiyo construction, and community volunteers gather to flip the boat for some final touches and oiling of the base using mustard and fish oil to make the exterior surfaces water resistant. This done, the Galiyo is once again flipped upright. Mohri, the anchor post, used for tying the ropes, made as solid wooden post a few inches higher than the height of the boat, is carved with beautiful chokri, square design shape on the top and dandani design along the entire length on all 3 exposed sides. The mori is inserted in the front gap between the 2 sides and their ends are nailed to it. The inside of the houseboat is provided with flooring boards called falco or fatto, made by joining planks in the form of removable platforms that can be easily lifted. These are placed on tado and covered with straw mats. Shelves with carved edges are also added under the takht in the storage area for keeping household necessities. The last step before the launch of the houseboat into water is making of the roof structure manjhan. 6 vertical post munni are inserted into the cutouts made for these at the 4 corners of the stern takht, and remaining 2 are inserted on the bow takht. 4 wooden beams called paswaro, made of eucalyptus or safeda wood, are fixed on the munni along the length of the houseboat, whereas 3 beams are fixed across the width on vertical post at the back, middle, and front. The structural frame of manjhan is prepared at this stage but fixed later. The Galiyo is now complete, ready to be launched into water. A large group of community volunteers gathered to push the boat with its bow side going in first, rejoicing with chants and drumming the decks with their hands as the boat floats into the water. After a couple of days, allowing for adjusting of joints to water seepage, the craftsman comes to fix the structural frame, and lastly the women of the community take over for tying of manjan, the roof covering. A skill acquired through experience and watching their elders. Some women of the community are considered as expert of this task. This is an important stage in the making of houseboats, as it ensures protection from heat, wind, cold, and rainwater. It is a tedious task requiring strength and knowledge about the process. Starting with cutting bamboo in required sizes and washing it in water, they are set on the roof frame slightly apart and tied using a thick rope with precise knots. Finally, they cover them with layers of tado, mats or chatais weaved with dried palm leaves, and kiri, straw mats, forming a thick covering which doesn't let the rainwater seep in and at the same time keeps the interior space cool in summers and warm in winters. After the layering is done, the edges are stitched all around using a thick needle, suan, and thread or rope. The back side is covered with a folded tado, dukhani, first sewn on all sides and then suspended from the rear side beam, closing the back. This creates a storage niche for stacking the beddings. It takes over 2 to 3 hours for 2 women to tie the manchand. Finally, the Galiyo is ready to be used. As the family moves in, they add the Quran cot, hindoro, as well as pingho, the swing, which are important elements of the houseboat. They also decorate it with vibrant jhalars with sequenced edgings to add a pop of color to the otherwise earthy color palette of their houseboat.